65 years ago, three worlds collided on Central Street. Well, recently those worlds came back together again in a mind-blowing coincidence that they call divine intervention. It's pretty normal for neighbours to be sitting around having a cup of tea together, but with all due respect, there's nothing normal about how you crowd got together. Kip, how did you first meet these ladies 65 years ago?
Yes, it's quite a story, and it began back in 1951. My mother sent me to McGraw's store on Centre Street for a pound of butter. And just as I got to McGraw's, there were all three-story houses there in them days, and there was a woman in the third floor, and she was calling out. There was smoke pouring out of the house, and the woman that was up on the third floor was calling out, "Save the children, save the children." So, I knew there was an emergency there, so I just ran over to that house, and I opened the front door, and there was a set of stairs in front of me. So I went up the stairs, ran over to that house, and I opened the front door, and there was a set of stairs in front of me. So I went up the stairs, and there's where all the smoke was anyway. So I went up the stairs, and when I got up, to the left there was a room there, and there was a little girl in there. So I knew this is one I was supposed to save, so I grabbed her and I was going to go out with her. But no way, she was kicking and screaming, you're not going. She said, "You got to get my sister." So now I said, "Where's your sister?" Well, she had no idea, and no more did I. The house by now was full of smoke. So there was a little room over across the hallway too. So I walked into that room, and I couldn't see a thing and couldn't hear anything, but I knew there was a little girl somewhere. And so I think it's the man upstairs that said to me, "Sweep your hand under the bed," and I did, and I grabbed the little girl. So when I had two, so out I went, and I wanted to get out of that house too, in a hurry, because it's full of smoke, and burning. So out I went. Only 12 at the time, and I didn't know anything about it and didn't know anybody to ask. So I just let it go. But I always knew what happened and wondered what became of these two children. And I never did find out until I moved up to Ontario, made my living in Ontario, reared a family there, and decided to come back here for retirement. So we sold our house in Georgian Bay and bought a house. My wife found a house online by Carwood that was for sale, and we thought, this looks like it'd be a nice area and everything, and it looked like a nice house. So we decided we'd buy it, and we did, and we came down here. Well, now when we were here after a week or so, the next door neighbour, this lady Marg, she came in to meet the neighbours. And when she told me that she was from St. John's, I said, "I'm from St. John's too. I was from Flower Hill." She said, "I live right in Centre Street." Well, I said, "I'm going to tell you a little story about Centre Street." So I proceeded to tell her the story of the fire and the two little girls coming out. And she just looked at me and nearly fainted. She said, "I'm the little girl."
Margaret, what was your reaction? Did you know that it was him that had taken you from the house?
No, I had no recollection. I had very few memories of the fire. What happened, I could remember the day of the fire being kind of hushed out through the door. I do remember that as a child, like I was reluctant to go out, and perhaps because it was cold, and somebody kind of hustling me out. And I do remember seeing my dear mother out on the street singing out to her mother-in-law, who was up in the top floor, and I remember people holding Mum back from getting to the fire. By this time the house was aflame, and I do remember also seeing my uncle walking around sort of like a nomad, and he had burns and soot and that on his shoulders and that, where he was only wearing a singlet, you know, as he had been asleep at the time. So that's all basically I remember about the fire. But, you know, when Kip told us that, you know, I mean, I couldn't get over it. I mean, it was a miracle as far as I'm concerned. Herb and I have said we've had good lives, you know, we've got children and grandchildren, and, you know, that wouldn't be if something had happened to us that day. So, you know, we really are grateful, and God love him. You know, I love him.
How do you thank someone for your life? I mean, how do you do it? When 65 years later, I find out that this is the man that I owe my life to. And my sister, for that, he wouldn't have known that I was around if she hadn't told him.